beautiful image. It's also to help change our community as a whole.
Right. And elevate these people.
I would challenge your perception sometimes. Sometimes you don't realize you look at things a certain way until it's in your face. Yeah, and I think this mural could help just bring things to conversation.
I think challenge perception is a good thing you just said.
Challenge.
I said the portrait give me hope.
Give you hope.
Because people just like there are people out there in the community that are still caring about people like us who've been isolated and grew over the years, but they still think of us as what we were in the past. And be able to have a chance to get a job or be able to change.
Definitely talk about second chances and forgiveness and how we all deserve that. The stigma, not only with their past and other stuff, but also their race and ethnicity, bring that in and how that affects the community as well.
Thinking the same thing, like it gives people second chances.
I think it's good to understand that people change and that even with conviction, sometimes they aren't always like some people get like falsely convicted, and I think we need to keep that in mind when we're looking at ex-cons for employment rates and such.
I mean, it only takes one thing to mess up our record, and even if we do change in the future, our past still come back to haunt us.
I also think it brings attention to the issue because it could be kind of a little bit like a niche topic. Not many people think about it in their daily lives. This could bring attention to that issue.
One of the things too, how does this impact the community when somebody with a felony or a record can't get a job because of that record? Think about that. If somebody comes back into society, yet they're still judged, even though they did their time, they're still judged on that record. Say that even if they want to get a job, it's harder to get a job. So what are the impacts on the community then because of that?
It's even after they're out of jail, they're still being punished, something that they did.
Exactly.
It's not, I don't think it's fair. I think once you serve time, you should be able to try and start over and grow. You can't do that if you can't get a job.
The prison system, it really affects women of color at a much harder rate than men of color. So I think that it could also bring attention to that and the racism in the prison industrial complex. And I think that could call action to that as well.
The stigma, not only with their past and other stuff, but also their race and ethnicity, bring that in and how that affects the community as well.
If you're interviewing someone who has a past conviction, and keep in mind that they are still people and they still want and need to work. People inspiring people empowered to create change.
Change people's perceptions of convicts, kind of, and just they're people just like us. They made a mistake. They deserve to have a second chance and to be welcomed back into society.
And I think there's so much bad representation of people with convictions in the media. I feel this would help create some positive representation that we don't get to really see that often in the media.
They're people just like us. They made a mistake. They deserve to have a second chance.
Why it's important to have a social justice mural in our community. It humanizes people. It brings second chances. If people doesn't understand the legalese, they understand art. And I think it's very important. When people come home, they have the right resources, and it makes change. And we need that, especially in our communities with the population of people who have made mistakes. It's dignity in all work, but so many people were offering them jobs in the kitchens and constructions, and we're more than just that. We're more than our time that we've made. We're more than the mistakes that people have committed. So oftentimes people were given out menial jobs. And now people are coming home. We want to offer them jobs of their passion. We have artists, we have creative, right? A lot of people who have skills and trades that they can come home and do that kind of work that they haven't done, or the mistakes that they have made. I think it's important because it brings more value to humanize another person, another soul. And one thing I want to work on is language. Language is very important. People are coming home calling people ex-felons, felons, inmates. I think it's important that that barrier will decrease and ultimately stop, because we're your neighbors, we're your friends, we're your co-workers and cohorts. And once that stops, it will allow us to feel humanized and feel equal to you. The people on the mural was chosen strategically. I wanted to start to empower women first, and those on that mural, they are Cincinnatians. They have made mistakes, some haven't. I chose people who are guilty, some who aren't guilty. They all work in the social justice field, so that was important. They've been home for many years doing constructive things in our community, so that was very important. The reasoning for each person. So we have Sheila Johnson. Sheila Johnson's been home for 30 years, and she's a recovering addict. I think it's important when people see her face that they know that they can do it too. She paved the way for so many people like me. She's also my mentor. Deanna Hoskins, she started the reentry program in Hamilton County. Now she lives in Washington, D.C. She worked at the White House on the Obama campaign. So it was very important because she started this initiative with reentry. Myself, I come home after a wrongful conviction of 23 years, and I seen this vision when I was inside the prison. But when I came home, I noticed that there wasn't any social justice murals, and they weren't hiring people who have made mistakes. And I wanted to change that paradigm. I wanted to change the ecosystem for returning citizens. And I also work in a law firm. Tracy Broomfield, she creates a newspaper called The Rise, and it actually generates inside the prisons and jails for resources. So when people are inside, they can look up in the newspaper, her newspaper, and say, hey, they're hiring people, or here's another place that I can get a CQE. So it's very important to have her on the mural. And then we have Belinda Coulter, who works at Cincinnati Works. Amazing person. She also helped people find jobs who have made mistakes. So every last one of us is doing something good. The clock in the middle, of course, it has Ohio, but I wanted people to look at the clock and say, there's something wrong with that clock. In our actuality, it really isn't. I wanted people to pay attention to the numbers. I took out the numbers 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, because I wanted people to see 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, because that is the time and amount of people that are in prison still continuing to do a vast majority of the time. And it doesn't take that long to realize that you have made a mistake and you want to redeem yourself. On top we have our mission statement, we don't write people off. So as you notice, there's the scales of justice, and they're balanced, one with books of knowledge and the other one has the hourglass and the sand is coming out of it, and it's very important. So I'm the creative director. However, I worked with Russell Craig out of Philadelphia, who also was the design, who helped with the design. And I also wanted to change the conversation because people are starting to hire us, right? So I wanted to go back inside the institution to some of the women who are amazing artists, who have the skill, and hire them with equal pay as the same as the artists that we have out here. The team that they have now is amazing. They created this big major piece on the wall, and it wasn't parachute cloth. So can you imagine being up there on scaffolding and one of our teaching artists is a returning citizen, and it has changed her life and the way she thinks about things, and that's what we need. We need meaningful opportunities for people, and that's why this social justice is important.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dr. Yusuf Salam. I'm one of the exonerated 5. I tell you, it feels like justice. It feels like a step in the right direction. It feels like we will be able to see real positive systemic change in our lifetimes, especially when it's happening in conservative places. It's amazing, and it's such an amazing feeling to feel that.
Hi, my name is Ella. I'm 17 and I've been with ArtWorks for 2 years. This mural is really important to me because it helped me realize the importance of the issue of incarceration in the criminal justice system. Throughout this project, we have met a lot of people, including the women in this mural, who have taught us a lot about the criminal justice system and their experience in incarceration. To me, hearing their personal experiences was super beneficial to really understand the scope of the issue and how it affects people individually. Before this project, I thought that I knew a lot more about incarceration and the experience of incarcerated people than I really did. When I met these people who are working in activism to correct issues that they're facing, I learned a lot, and I really learned the scope of the issues that they deal with. It's also important to me as a woman of color, since racial biases in the criminal justice system are really prevalent. I feel that it's important to know more about what my people are facing in terms of unfair convictions and further stigmatization in their lives. I've also learned a lot about how to have important conversations like this with people that I know. I've learned how to discuss and use the correct language in order to share these issues with other people who may not know. I'm excited for this mural to make the impact that it will have on this community, and I'm excited to participate in projects like this in the future. I've only been with ArtWorks for 2 years, but in this span of time, especially during this mural, I feel that I've progressed so much as a person, and I've learned so much more about the world than I would have if I wasn't involved. During this project, I've had the opportunity to advocate for returning citizens and be an ally to them in terms of giving them a voice and using the correct language to help them further themselves in society and remove stigma.
Before I started working on this mural, I never really thought about like people who are incarcerated and how hard it is for them to like re-enter society, get a job, like open a bank account after, you know, serving their time. And once I started working on the mural, I figured out how like huge of an issue it is and how big the problem is, simply because a lot of people don't think about it because it's kind of an out of sight, out of mind problem. And like once I started meeting people like Tyra and Ray and Belinda, who had been previously incarcerated, it was super eye-opening because like, you know, here are these awesome people who like already served their time that are having to face these crazy barriers just so that they can, you know, get a job, open up a bank account, like have a life. And after serving their time, like, I don't know, it's just like, I think that it's an issue now that's super close to my heart because not only like did these women have to deal with all these horrible things while they were incarcerated and like, you know, because of their incarceration, but also they're all like super positive and just grateful. And I think that's really inspiring, like even after everything they've been through, just like they're able to just carry on and like be positive and just be grateful to like be here. And you know, also like the fact that once they got out of prison, they were able to like inspire and help others. Like I think that speaks a lot to like their, you know, charisma, positivity. Like they didn't just like get out of jail and like just try and forget about it. Like they want to help everyone they can, and I just think that's super inspiring. And that's like a great message for everyone. Just because a problem doesn't like involve you anymore, or it never had, doesn't mean you can just like forget about it. Like these people that are incarcerated who've like served their time, like they should be able to have a life afterwards. they shouldn't be like dehumanized by society. Like they're a part of society, and like just these women have contributed so much, and they like have basically dedicated their lives to helping other people. So I think that's something that we should take with us. Like if they can do it, we can.
My name is Wesley. I'm 19. I'm a sophomore at Miami University. This is my 3rd year working with ArtWorks. I've been an apprentice for a couple years now, and every year I think it can't get any better, but it always tops itself, and I always learn so much. This year in particular, we're working on this mural about returning citizens, and I never thought a lot about it until I was put on this mural, and I never really understood what it meant to go through what all these people do. And hearing all these stories from all these inspiring women is just so powerful, and I'm glad I get to be part of this. I first met Tyra in 2019 when she came and spoke at the fundraiser breakfast. When she spoke, I definitely wanted to hear her story, and little did I know that I was going to be working on this mural where she got to be the creative director for. And I think that's just so amazing how things align like that. But I've always had this connection to this building. I'd walk by it and see the garage, and I always thought it was so cool, and I guess it was just my intuition saying like, this building's special, and like something's gonna happen here. And that's what we're doing. We're advocating for these women, lifting up their voices. Yeah, so with this mural, we want to work on creating conversations about breaking down the stereotypes that surround returning citizens and how difficult it is and the barriers they face. We just want to humanize them and treat them with the same respect that we expect from everyone else. I think it's really important as our roles as artists to speak up for those who don't have a voice, and we want to elevate these stories to create social change and to shatter these stereotypes and let people know that these people are human and they deserve the same as everyone else. Like the top of the mural says, we don't write people off, we believe in second chances.
It's important.
Currently doing the bars, which represents people who have been incarcerated and the incarceration system, because we see African American and Black people in our country disproportionately getting arrested, for example, for illicit usage and selling. While they were reported to be selling and using illicit drugs at the same rate, Black Americans are much more likely to be arrested for those, because we constantly see institutionalized racism affecting who and who doesn't become incarcerated and who does and doesn't get to come back when they do. And I feel like this mural is going to help break down that stigma and help us learn about the incarceration system and its flaws and how it works and its mechanisms, so that we can better understand how to better serve the citizens who are returning from those incarceration systems and from prison. Because we need to learn about the racial discrepancies and the general inequality that we see in the incarceration system, and we need to be just breaking down that stigma and understanding why this is happening and understanding the history behind this and understanding the way we think about it and our implicit bias and the implicit bias of others that are in power. And we need to be understanding what we can do to fight not only the stigma in society but also the stigma within ourselves. We constantly see people going to prison for decades when they shouldn't be going to prison, and then they return out in society and they come back to society and they aren't able to find work or find housing or find basic means of survival. And we have a power to help change that, and we need to be becoming better allies towards returning citizens and understanding their struggle and understanding what we can do to help benefit their life once they serve their time. Yeah, I mean, I have relations to people who have been in prison, and while it's horrible for everyone and it's so hard for people out of incarceration and returning citizens to help to find these jobs, it's really hard for them, but it also disproportionately affects Black and people of color in our country. because of the implicit biases that are set up in our society. The people in power aren't really doing much to help change these systems. And we need to, as a society, start coming together and help change what we can and help bring together to help create legislative change and societal change, and noticing where our biases come in and help thwart those biases so that we can better understand why we think those ways, better understand where do those thoughts come from, and better understand what we can do to help fight them and help fight for people who deserve rights and who deserve to work and who deserve housing, and we should just be fighting for people who deserve better.
My name is Casey. I am 19 years old. I feel this mural is really important, not just to me, but just to people all around, because I feel like it brings awareness to a topic that generally goes under the radar. I feel that this mural is going to bring hope to returning citizens. I feel like this mural is going to bring hope to a lot of people and just show you are not a label, you are not what they say you are, and that you have a place in the world. If you've done something in the past and paid your debt, you shouldn't be judged on it. Say for example, if you've done a robbery or something, and you went to jail, you did your time for it, I feel like you shouldn't be judged based on something you've done 20, maybe 30. People can grow and change over time, and that they may not be the same person they was coming out that they were going in. I have a family member who went to prison for, I'm not gonna get into the specifics of it, but I believe when he comes out, he should know that he has a place in society, and that he shouldn't be judged based on what he's did. I believe once he comes out, he paid his debt, and he should get a fresh start on life. One thing I've noticed about the prison system is the goal is to try to take in as many people as possible. I believe the prison system works more as a business instead of actually correct as a correctional area. A prison on average makes at least $1.3 billion a year, with the average cost of an inmate costing over $26,000 per inmate. A company could have to pay their workers about $15 an hour for certain industrial jobs, versus in prison they have to pay their workers, they don't really get to pay their workers little to nothing at all, which is kind of messed up when you think about it. You ever notice how prisons are called correctional facilities, but what are they actually correcting when you think about it? You just sit in a cell for at least 23 hours a day. There's not really educational training or job training, not really a chance for rehabilitation, education, or job training while in prison. I feel like what we're doing, I feel like we can send a message to people and bring awareness. I feel like we really have a chance to make an impact.
My name is Alyssa Moore, and this is my first year working with ArtWorks, and also the first mural I've ever done. I'm 17 years old. I go to Clark Montessori. I actually didn't get the job at first, and I wasn't really mad about that because I've never had a job before, so I was kind of indifferent. Then I got an email that said somebody turned down their spot and they wanted to hire me, and I almost didn't take the job, but then my mom convinced me to, and so did a lot of my other friends. They convinced me to do it. And
Is it too dark?
when I got here, I didn't know what it was going to be like, but I was just coming to paint and get paid. But then when I got here, I met everybody, and everybody was nice, and I didn't know what the mural was about either. I didn't know it was about returning citizens. Evan explained what the mural was about, and still I didn't really feel any connection to the mural or any sympathy. I still thought oh, I'm just painting. But then
I think it was on a Friday when Tyra came in. I first saw her, I didn't expect to be as happy as she was when I first saw her. Being able to meet her in person and like see and feel her raw emotions talking about this mural, it made me realize that I'm not just painting to get paid. I'm painting and this is going to impact somebody else's life. Like, this is going to help them, and this is going to help them realize that there are still people out there who don't see them as an ex-convict but as a returning citizen. Impact other people more that it's going to impact me. Like, I'm getting paid, but people are going to see this and it's going to help them reconnect with the community when they come back from incarceration. This mural is going to help humanize a lot of those people when they get back. Because just by reading about somebody being, if you want to call, like, you shouldn't call them an ex-con, you should call them a returning citizen. But just by hearing that somebody's an ex-con, you're not going to be able to sympathize with them because there's no face put to that name. But being able to see them on the wall and in person, is like they're people just like we are too. When you're walking down the street and you see maybe an old lady with her grandkids, you're not gonna think like, oh, she's been to jail. But if you read about it in a newspaper and there's no picture of her, it's like, oh, well, is she even a good grandma? But being able to see her in person, it's like she's a person just like we are. I guess I would also like to thank ArtWorks for giving me the chance to be who I am and have a job where it's not just a job, but I love what I'm doing and I don't get bored. And at the same time, I'm able to create something that's going to have a very meaningful impact to other people. And they're not going to know it's me who painted it. It's going to be the mural that connects them to other people, and it's going to start conversations. And who knows where that conversation is going to go.
My name is Mikey Springs. This is my first year doing ArtWorks. I am 18 and I've graduated at Review East Academy. I'll be going over how we suffered through the backlash or the crimes they did or didn't commit years ago, and how it will affect their future, trying to find a job, or how people will view them. Okay, let's see. I hope what this mural could do for this community is tell the stories of me, my team, and the people that are on this portrait of what they have went through and how they can also relate to it and be able to understand how that there's still people out there like them that are suffering. They'll be able to understand that they're not alone and there are still people in this community to help them put the pieces back together in their life. Help them try to reconnect with loved ones that are still alive, or be able to connect to friends to help them out later on down the line. Many people in this community has lost years of their lives and haven't been able to get them back, but that doesn't mean they can teach the next generation the rights and wrongs on what to do and how not to be in the situations that they were in, so then they can be able to help them have time saved instead of time served. With my experience at ArtWorks, I learned a lot of things. Being able to know how to do blending, know how to do backgrounds, and be able to understand people's other ways of how people were able to find their inspiration for drawing, and find other techniques of doing painting, how to use the measuring stick, how to perfectly get the line you want it to be. This was a good experience to have. Something I can learn in the future for when I want to try doing paintings, or try to do oil paintings like they did back in, where they use different types of minerals.
I just want you to think back to a time where you made a mistake or you were struggling with addiction and how you felt ashamed about it, but you were able to overcome it and were able to move on, and how good it felt for that to happen and you didn't have to live with it forever. So I just want you to reflect on your own transgressions and think about these people and how they served their time, and they should be able to come back and live their lives.